As you heard from Venerable yesterday, we just came out of this lovely week with our monastic friends. We had our Western Buddhist monastic gathering here. So I'm feeling in my mind very inspired with a lot of gratitude for what the Sangha in the West is trying to do with their practice and what we're trying to do to make sure that the Dharma comes to the West and has a nice, solid ground to stand on. And that we really care about each other and support each other, as we do this. So I wanted to kind of hold on to this sense of being inspired and being grateful and having my heart open. And something has kind of attracted me a few days ago, and I wanted to share it with you. That has also kept me also quite inspired with a sense of gratitude, sense of hope, and has really kept my heart open. And it's around, as a Dharma practitioner, being really inspired when the self-centered thought is challenged and intercepted, when sentient beings take care of each other and take care of other living beings that are in very, very vulnerable positions. The thing that His Holiness says is that we have a universal responsibility to really cherish and care for living beings, especially if we're going to be walking this bodhisattva path and develop bodhicitta in our hearts. And sometimes it's really hard when you're reading the news. We get to check in with it every once in a while. It's hard to really feel inspired because what we're hearing is totally the opposite of what's going on in the world, that the human family is really running, is having difficulty with the self-centered thought, and a lot of greed and delusion is running the show. So when you can hear about some people doing some amazing things, it can be very, very inspiring. So what kind of propelled this is that we have on our Washington state ballot this November, there's an initiative, 1410, which is going to ban the importation of ivory, among other things, into the Seattle ports, into the state. I think it's the third state in America that's actually, New Jersey, New York already have this in place. And it's going to be able to cover things like, the other vulnerable beings in our world that get killed because of their fur, the lions, the cheetahs, the marine turtles, the rhino tusks that are, aphrodisiacs or something. So this initiative is going to be on the ballot next week, and it really inspired me to think that America's really taking a stand about this, and there's this wave is starting to happen about the illegal importation of these pieces of animal parts that human beings put some value on. So I was very, very inspired by our state's going to get a little bit more serious about this. There's a federal law, but they say it's very complicated and it doesn't really take care of the problem. So I was looking through a news magazine the other day, and in there's this remarkable story that I wanted to share with you. First, what happened recently is that this woman who was called the Queen of Ivory, she's a woman who has been the middle person between the poachers and the market of illegal ivory for a number of years. She has been claimed responsibility for the death of 6,000 elephants, and that she makes millions and millions of dollars. Well, the Tanzania government finally tracked her down and have her in their custody. And that they've said what she did, and there's a number of big head people like her that are the middle person between the poaching and the market, is that arresting her and a number of these people had such a profound effect that the people who are tracking the elephants say in the past few months, the difference in the amount of carcasses that they're seeing is noticeably less. That the numbers of elephants in Tanzania has gone from since 1997 has gone from 110,000 to 43,000 elephants left in Tanzania because of the poaching. So they've caught her, and they say this is going to make a huge difference, and that Tanzania has in motion a number of groups of people that are tracking this and are going to really try to get serious about this, despite the lucrative money that can be made with this illegal trading. So then I'm going along. So then there's this little thread in this magazine, and farther along there's yet another article. And this is the one that I wanted to share with you. Every year the UN gives the most prestigious environmental award. It's called the Champion of the Earth Award to individuals, to organizations, to businesses that really are taking the welfare of this planet to heart. So when you open up the website, and in this magazine it talks about this one group, you see a man who's, I think, the CEO of Lipton Tea, you see the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, you see this natural cosmetic company, and you see National Geographic, who got the award this year. And down at the bottom was a little box, and this is the group that I was just as blown me away. They're called the Black Mamba Anti-Poaching Unit 26 out of South Africa. It's a group of mostly women whose passionate call is to catch the poachers of the rhinos in the Kruger National Park in South Africa, in the Bululi Wildlife Reserve. They're named after a poisonous snake that can grow 9 feet long and can travel up to 6 miles an hour along the ground. And that if you get bit by it, you've got about 45 minutes to get an medicine. There's 26 people, most of them are women in this group. It was formed 2 years ago. They're unarmed, and they conduct foot patrols in the Bululi Wildlife Preserve, where a lot of these rhinos are. And and the Kruger National Park has almost 1.5 million visitors a year. And mostly for safaris and sightseeing, brings a lot of economy into the country. And that they conduct vehicle checks and list the local folks to figure out tracking the poachers. They set up roadblocks, and they run education programs in the local communities to sort of bring an awareness to that by poaching these animals in the park, they are taking away something very precious for the people who live there and for the world, that the posterity of these precious species of endangered animals is getting into a very, very dangerous situation because they're getting poached so badly. And it's not just the rhinos and the elephants, it's the cheetahs and the leopards and the lions and the antelope and whatever. And since in past 2 years, there has been a 95% reduction in the snares. I guess they use snares to catch the rhinos and these other animals. And they have removed 1,000 snares. They have shut down 5 poacher camps and camps that process the meat for illegally killed animals. Now, the women in this group say that knowing that a lot of people in their own communities poach, finally said, I've had it, enough. That we will not be able to leave this for our children, and that these animals deserve to be safe and to feel at home and to be protected and to be loved just as we take care of each other. And so recently, 2 of the women from the Black Mamba went to the UN and received the award for what they do, and that they're making a huge effect on the national park. And so I'm going to send to the community the link to this. It's a 2-minute video on these women, and you're going to get blown out of the water when you see them. But what I'm being so inspired by is that it takes a lot of different effort by many of us to be able to deal with something that needs to be changed. So we've got the state of Washington taking care of it. We've got the arrest of this Queen of Ivory, and we have these women in South Africa really taking the bull by the horns in regards to caring and protecting some of our mother sentient beings that are so vulnerable, to the greed and the delusion of our human family when our minds are so crazy. And so I wanted to really rejoice in their right livelihood, in their cherishing of others, and their courage and compassion and their wisdom to be willing to educate. I mean, they're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because as one of the women so beautifully said in this video, she says, the people who come here, the visitors who come here, supply a lot of income to these local communities. And she says it really brings a lot of business to these communities. These people come, spend lots of money in the parks, they get to see the wildlife in their natural habitat. She says if we take care of these animals, we're actually taking care of ourselves. It's sort of like if you want to be selfishly, be selfish, be wisely selfish, cherish others. She's almost like having His Holiness's teaching right there in this video. So I just wanted to to share that I was just so inspired to see these beautiful women who are so passionate. They would risk their lives for these animals, and that they're making a huge difference in taking care of them. And they're also educating the people in the country to say, let's do this differently. We don't have to give up our livelihood. We can do something a little bit different, that we can serve ourselves, and we can also take care of this very precious resource that we have, not only for ourselves, but for the world. So I really applaud the state of Washington, I applaud the government of Tanzania, and I applaud the folks in South Africa, and particularly the Black Mamba Anti-Poaching Unit number 20s.